we're going to look at a couple of topics that are more just to do with points on the number plane than they are actually about tables of values and graphs and lines. So the first one is this idea of midpoint. The midpoint, which did get mentioned briefly in Year 9, so some of you should recognise the name, is the point on a number plane, which is exactly halfway between two other points. If I've got our number plane, I've got 2 points, one over here, one over there. Then we look at this. If I could draw straight, try again. And it'd be the point that's exactly halfway in between. Now that's not quite the origin. It's a little bit to the right, it's a little bit up, somewhere here. So, what skills do we need to be able to use to do this? Well, there's two different ways. Some of them we're going to be able to look at it as a picture. Some of them we're going to be able to look at just from their coordinates. But before we do that, let's have a go at, and this is the worksheet I want you guys to work through. So the first section of the worksheet is what I want you guys to do now. I'll go through the first example and then I'll instruct you to pause our video and we will then have a go at the next bit. So firstly, what number is halfway in between the number 4 and the number 16? I've started yours off a little easier than this, but 4 and 16, well, we could think of having a number line and we could say, well, here's 4 and here's 16. So what do we got? We've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. They almost all fit. So don't look at where the middle is now. Well, obviously, if we've got 16, well then 15, 14, 13, let's just cross off 3 of them. It's not those first 3 gaps. So I'm going to cross off those first 3 gaps there. That would make us 4, 5, 6, 7. And here 16, 15, 14, 13. Oh, 7 and 13, that might be doable. Let's think a bit further. Let's go another 2. So 7, 8, 9, and 13, 12, 11. Well, what's the number that's exactly halfway between 9 and 11? Well, this one in the middle here must be 10. So that's the process you can go through. Now, as the numbers get bigger and further apart, you might need other options. One of the other options we always have is that the number halfway between is also called the average. But the number that is the average, well, from primary school teachers have been yabbering on about average, and the average is just the 2 numbers added together. So 4 and 16 added together makes 20, and then divided that by 2. So we have 20 divided by 2, which is definitely 10. I'm pretty confident we've got it right. So what I want you guys to do now is pause this video and have a go at these questions. Write them in your books. We're going to keep things simple. We're not going to try any more online quizzes for a little while, maybe next term. But for this week, let's just have a go at filling these in your book. Just write down kind of the heading, what number is halfway between, and then question 1, well, halfway between 10 and 20. I don't even want to say it, I don't even want to hint at it, because I hope most of you guys would know what's halfway between 10 and 20. And then I'm only trying to change one number on one side at a time, just to try and see if you can spot some sort of relationships between them as you go. But hey, if you can't, just try and answer each of the questions. Now that you've unpaused, let's go back to this idea of midpoint. Well, if we're on the number plane, to find the point in the middle, looking for the point that feels like it's the middle. We think it might be here, but it actually says we can count the squares and go halfway, or we could split the full triangle if we want to think of this as a triangle here. Well, this triangle is 4 spaces across, so what I'm going to do is make a little triangle that's only 2 spaces across. That looks good. In terms of the height, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 squares high, so we want a small triangle that's only going to go up by 4, and in fact we can. And on the other side, 1, 2, 3, 4, so it's 2 and 4 and 2 and 4. Gets us halfway in between. So there is our point. Now that's one thing, is to find it. The second thing is to say where it is, and we always put X before Y, horizontal before vertical, alphabetical order. It's always X first, then Y. So we go 4 across and then 3 up to get to that spot. So 4 across to the right is positive, and 3 up is positive as well. So the other way to look at this, and I have actually used the same 2 points, so 2 across and 7 up, and 6 across and 1 down, so -1. Well, if we do this as just the coordinates, just the x and the y axes, well, my encouragement here, and I know that sometimes it won't be written like this, like in the question, what is the midpoint of these 2 points, is actually put your x values together. All of these are x values on the left, and all of these will go green on the right, happen to be the y values. So we're only looking at horizontal, and we just want to know, well, what number is halfway between 2 and 6? So 2, we've got 3, 4, 5 in between, so it must be the 4. And 7 and -1 is a little bit tricky. Maybe we'll do it the other way around. Well, what is 7 plus -1 divided by 2? Well, again, we could use a calculator if we had to, if we're going to use this method. Of course, 7 plus -1 is the same as just 7 take away 1. 7 take away 1 is 6. And if I halve that, divided by 2, I get 3. Well, is that the same answer, 4, 3, that we found off our picture? It is. It's 4 across and 3 up. So that's the exact same thing. And at this point, I want you guys to finish off the rest of that worksheet. So again, I'm going to jump back and we'll scroll down past all the ones you've already done. This is actually next to it on your worksheet. Doesn't really matter how I've laid it out, but I want you guys to say, well, what point is going to then be, and I've done the algebra kind of method first, what's the number that's halfway between 5 and 10? Well, 5 plus 10 is 15 usually, always. Divided by 2, we get, what's half of 15? It's actually 7.5. The next one is these second values, and I've actually swapped my colors around this time. We want to join up our 7 and our 9. So again, 7, 8, 9, that middle number is the 8. So what is it that we're trying to do here? Well, we've got an 8, and that means our coordinates are 7.58. There are a few, not too many, for you guys to try. So there's one with 2 and 10, and 7 and 9. So I've actually left the 7 and 9 there, so that might help. And then I've left it the same 2 more times. Well, that's dumb. On this version, it's the same. On the one I'm giving to you, they will change. And so if we do one of these picture ones, well, this time we're looking for the middle point, which is actually clearly labeled on here. So all we've got to do is work out, well, what is the x value? Remembering that the x is the first thing. Well, we've gone, it's not 2, it's not 3, it's not 4. That looks like it's 3.5 to the right, and I've written 2.5. Well, that was silly. It is 3.5. We'll just fix that. We'll just write over the top of it. It is definitely a it is 3.5. And in terms of how far up we've come, well, we've definitely come up to a height here of 5. So that means we've gone 5 up, which means that our coordinates then are going to be 3.5 and 5, which may not show up because I put a white mark there, but whatever. You get the idea. We'll just cross that out. It's 3.55. So then again, and not many for you guys to do, where is this point? Just find me the coordinates, tell me how far to the right and how far up. Have a go at this one, how far to the right or left, and how far up or down. And this one, yeah, you've actually got a dot. Put the dot on yourself and work out how far right and how far up from the origin we've moved. You might want to put the numbers on here, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and work it out. And write those answers in your book, and again, just upload a photo of them.